What if I told you that finding the greatest treasure in human history actually destroyed an empire? This isn't a fairy tale about cursed gold. This is the true story of how Spain discovered more wealth than any civilization had ever dreamed of, only to watch it tear their empire apart from within. The year is 1519. Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés stands before the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, witnessing wealth beyond imagination. Gold adorns every temple, every palace, every street corner. The Aztecs used precious metals like Europeans use iron. Cortés writes to King Charles V, "The things that were brought to the king from the new golden land were a golden sun as broad as a full-grown man, a silver moon of the same size, and sundry curiosities from the armory, much more beautiful to behold than any miracle." But Cortés has no idea he's about to unleash an economic catastrophe that will echo through centuries. Within 3 years, the Aztec Empire falls. The Spanish discover something even more valuable than Aztec gold, the Silver Mountain of Potosi in modern-day Bolivia. This single mountain contains more silver than the entire world had ever seen. Spanish miners extract over 45,000 tons of silver from Potosi alone. To put this in perspective, this represents roughly 80% of the world's silver production for the next 2 centuries. Ships loaded with treasure begin sailing from the Americas to Spain. The Spanish treasure fleet becomes the most valuable cargo operation in history. Each year, galleons carry millions of pesos worth of gold and silver across the Atlantic. Spain suddenly possesses more wealth than Rome ever controlled, more riches than any European power had ever imagined possible. King Philip II of Spain believes he's achieved what every monarch dreams of: unlimited wealth. With endless gold and silver flowing into Spanish coffers, he funds massive armies, builds grand palaces, and wages wars across Europe. Spain becomes the most powerful nation on earth. The Spanish Empire stretches from the Philippines to Peru, from the Netherlands to Naples. But something strange begins happening in Spanish markets. Bread costs more this month than last month. A sword that cost 10 pesos now costs 15. Merchants demand higher prices for everything from cloth to cattle. The Spanish people can't understand why life becomes more expensive when their country grows richer every day. This phenomenon puzzles European economists for decades. How can a nation drowning in gold struggle to buy basic necessities? The answer lies in a principle that won't be fully understood until centuries later: inflation. When Spanish treasure ships arrive in Seville, they don't just unload gold and silver, they unleash economic chaos across Europe. Suddenly, Spanish markets flood with precious metals. Everyone has more gold and silver to spend, but the amount of goods available stays exactly the same. More money chasing the same products means higher prices for everything. The inflation spreads beyond Spain's borders like a plague. European prices rise by 300 to 400% during the 16th century. This period becomes known as the Price Revolution, and it transforms European society forever. Farmers who once lived comfortably find themselves unable to afford their own grain. Craftsmen watch their fixed wages become worthless as living costs skyrocket. Spain suffers the worst effects. Despite controlling the world's largest treasure fleet, Spanish workers become some of Europe's poorest. The country that once dominated global trade finds itself unable to compete with other European nations. Spanish goods become too expensive for international markets. Foreign merchants stop buying Spanish products because they can purchase the same items cheaper elsewhere. The irony becomes devastating. Spain possesses more gold than any civilization in history, yet Spanish agriculture collapses. Spanish manufacturing disappears. Spanish cities empty as people flee to other countries, seeking affordable living. The nation that conquered empires can't feed its own people. King Philip II faces a crisis that gold cannot solve. Despite receiving treasure worth billions in today's currency, Spain declares bankruptcy 4 times during his reign. The Spanish crown owes massive debts to German and Italian bankers. Interest payments consume entire treasure fleet shipments before they even reach Spanish shores. Meanwhile, other European nations learn from Spain's mistakes. The Dutch use Spanish gold to build efficient manufacturing systems. The English invest Spanish silver in naval technology and colonial expansion. France develops sophisticated banking systems to manage monetary policy. These countries transformed Spanish treasure into lasting economic power, while Spain itself crumbles. The economic destruction spreads to the Americas as well. Native populations who once controlled vast silver mines become enslaved laborers in their own lands. Spanish colonial policies extract wealth so aggressively that entire ecosystems collapse. The environmental damage from mining operations destroys agricultural regions that had sustained civilizations for thousands of years. By 1600, Spain's golden age ends abruptly. The country that once ruled the world's oceans becomes a second-rate European power. Spanish influence wanes as Dutch, English, and French empires expand. The treasure that was supposed to guarantee Spanish dominance forever instead finances Spain's rivals and competitors. Economists studying this period discover a fundamental truth about wealth and power. Raw materials, even precious ones, don't create lasting prosperity. Nations that focus on extracting gold and silver while neglecting agriculture, manufacturing, and trade inevitably decline. Spain learned this lesson too late. The Spanish treasure fleet continues operating until the early 1800s, but its impact diminishes every year. Other European powers develop alternative trade routes and colonial systems. Spain's monopoly on American wealth becomes irrelevant as global commerce evolves beyond precious metal dependency. Modern economists recognize the Spanish experience as one of history's clearest examples of the resource curse. Countries blessed with abundant natural resources often develop weaker economies than nations forced to innovate and diversify. Spain's gold addiction prevented the economic development that could have sustained lasting power. The story of Spanish gold reveals a paradox that still affects nations today. Sometimes getting exactly what you want destroys everything you've built. Spain sought unlimited wealth and achieved it, only to discover that unlimited wealth without economic wisdom creates unlimited problems. This historical lesson resonates in our modern world, where nations rich in oil, diamonds, or other valuable resources often struggle with the same challenges that destroyed Spanish power centuries ago. The greatest treasures in history aren't always the ones that glitter.